Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and the mercy and blessings of Allah be with you all. Thank you. Thank you for joining me on this live post today. And I want to start by wishing you all a happy new year. It's a new Hijri year. We have entered a new Hijri year by the grace of God, and it is time for us to look back at 1443. All of the good things we did, but all of the mistakes that we have committed, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His forgiveness for all our mistakes. We thank Him for all of our achievements, and we look forward to this new year, a year of prosperity and happiness for us, for the entire world. We pray that Allah will make this a prosperous year, and may Allah guide us to do what is pleasing to Him, and to turn away from everything that will be displeasing to Him. So I begin as usual by praising our Creator and Fashioner, the Creator of the heavens and the earth. I ask Him to send peace and blessings upon all of His prophets, His messengers, all of the righteous people of all time. I ask Him to bless you all, bless all of the people around you, keep you all safe from COVID-19, from monkeypox, from every other sickness and disease and stress and distress. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this meeting here today one of education and information. May Allah help us to understand that message that He wants us to accept for our eternal salvation. Today we will look at Matthew chapter 5, and this is a particularly Muslim presentation of Matthew chapter 5, but you will see that there's a lot that Muslims and Christians have in common. We both believe in Jesus, and we come now to Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. And much of what Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount actually is reflective of Islamic teachings as well. And many Muslim scholars quote Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, a few lines here and there. Jesus said this and Jesus said that. Quote in a positive way, as if these are teachings for us as well. So let's read. So I will pay attention to the chat from time to time, just to make sure that everything is okay, and also to see your questions and comments, which eventually I will respond to before the end of today's meeting. So far everything looks. I don't see any alerts showing that anything is wrong with audio or video. So I take it that everything is fine. I see that Brother Jamal Kusher, I hope I'm not mispronouncing your name, my brother, it tells us that he says, MashaAllah, Jazakallahu khairan. And thank you, my brother Jamal, for these kind words and your du'as. I see you are from Kurdistan, and MashaAllah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and all of the people of your country. And are you into Taekwondo? Interesting. All right. So, Matthew chapter 5. So I've pulled up the Bible Hub site here, and I'm looking at Matthew chapter 5 in the Berean Study Bible. And we see here the Sermon on the Mount. That's how it is labeled in this as a chapter heading. And we get now to verse number 1. Verse number 1, when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on the mountain and sat down. His disciples came to him, and he began to teach them, saying, and now we have another heading before the actual words of Jesus. We have a heading here in the Berean Study Bible saying the Beatitudes. So these are where Jesus is saying, blessed be this, and blessed be that sort of person. So let's see who are these persons up until verse number 11. So verse number 3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Let me make a side comment here and say that the Quran has a similar statement, but it doesn't say the meek, it says the righteous. And some people looking at this passage in Matthew's Gospel think that, well, would the meek really inherit the earth? And they see from experience that it is the ones who are bold who go and, take control of things and who actually get into power. not so much the meek. But of course, what is being promised here is that God will give it to the ones who are meek and humble, and so on. The Quranic promise is that the righteous will have it. Okay, so verse number 6. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. 7. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. So this is an interesting statement in Islamic tradition as well. We have it that those who are not merciful to others, mercy will not be shown to them. Man la yarham, la yurham. So it's, you can see the similarity in teachings between the Sermon on the Mount of Jesus and the Islamic teachings. Verse number 8, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. And we have in the Quran, illa man atallaha bi qalbin salim, except those who come to God with a pure heart, or a tranquil heart, a heart which is at peace, a heart which is wholesome. And verse number 9, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. And here we can see that sons of God is used in a very broad sense. Those who are making peace, they are obviously beloved by God, and they are called sons of God, which means sons of God, is another way of saying beloved of God or pleasing to God. Verse number 10, blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Now, we see twice here in this list of Beatitudes the kingdom of heaven. And as we mentioned last time, this is a way of saying kingdom of God. So Matthew is using here what is called circumlocution, going around, so as to avoid the mention of the word God. Though, of course, we can see that in the rest of the Beatitudes, God is mentioned in verse number 8, verse number 9, for example. And then coming to verse number 11, blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets before you. So this shows that Christians will go through some difficulties, and of course Muslims go through this kind of difficulty as well. All kinds of things are said about them and against them by virtue of the fact that they're following the great prophets of the past, including Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and the last of all of the prophets, the Prophet Muhammad. Peace and blessings of God be upon him and upon them all. So Muslims take comfort in promises like this, knowing that if we suffer because of our proper belief, then God will give us a reward in the life hereafter. But what is interesting as well is that our Christian friends are being told in advance that they will suffer many things. And if the death of Jesus was to eliminate all suffering and to pay once and for all of the sufferings, then it would make no sense for others to suffer as well, especially those who are his dear followers. So I'm looking at the chat, and I see that Jamal is assuring me that I've pronounced his name correctly. Thank you, Brother Jamal. And Brother Haruna Yusuf saying Jazakallahu khairan. And Brother Fuad, Assalamu alaikum. Never got enough of your teaching. Every time I listen to your evidence, my iman increase. May Allah reward you. Thank you so much, very much for those encouraging words, Brother Fuad, and for your du'as. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. And I see that Brother Muhammad Mustafa has shared the stream. Thank you, Brother Muhammad. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expose this message, at least what's good of it, to others, and you will get the reward for that as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. In the meantime, I see that Noor Bayan has also shared it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept, and thank you for that. Okay, so coming back to Matthew chapter 5, we are at verse number 13, and prefacing verse number 13 in the Berean Study Bible is the heading Salt and Light. So that's an indication of what these few verses will talk about up until verse number 16. So starting with 13, you are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its savor, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled by men. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a basket. Instead, they set it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So you can see here that Father in heaven is that he is the God of all people, and he is the God of Jesus's disciples, and he is their Father. So it's not that Jesus has the exclusive right to call God Father. His disciples too can refer to God as their Father in heaven. And now we come to this passage about the fulfillment of the law, and this is something that Muslims have paid close attention to. And Muslims feel that our Christian friends do not pay close attention to these verses. So let's look at them. So we're looking at Matthew chapter 5, verse 17. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For I tell you truly, until heaven and earth pass away, not a single jot, not a stroke of a pen, not a stroke of a pen will disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. So then, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do likewise will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. So let's see what is being said here. Many of our Christian friends who read this, they think that Jesus, by saying, I've come to fulfill the law, is speaking about, prophecy and fulfillment. But it's not prophecy, this is law. So there was a law, there is something to be done, and Jesus is insisting on doing all of those things. Now, some commentators find that this is an exaggeration in Matthew's gospel. So how do we account for this? So in Matthew's gospel here, at least in this portion, Jesus is laying great emphasis on following the law right down to the last letter. So does that mean that he abolished or he changed nothing? On the other hand, at the other extreme, we have writings in the New Testament, like, for example, saying that, the law was nailed to the cross of Christ, or that Jesus abolished the law with all of its commandments and regulations, as we find in the book of Ephesians in chapter 2, verse number 14. So how do we reconcile this? On the one hand, somebody is saying, and this is one of the Pauline writings, that Jesus abolished the law with all of its commandments and regulations. On the other hand, we have Matthew saying that, every last dot and tittle needs to be in place and needs to be carried out. So what's the proper balance between these two extremes? To me, that balance is struck in the Quran, where Jesus is said to have told the people of Israel, as mentioned in chapter 3 of the Quran, Surah Al-Imran, وَلِيُحِلَّ لَكُمْ بَعْضَ الَّذِي حُرِّمَ عَلَيْكُمْ وَجِئْتُكُمْ بِآيَةٍ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُونِ. So I came in order to abolish or to amend some of that which has been given before. So as to make permissible some of that which was previously forbidden to you. So Jesus makes some of the laws abolished by giving new commandments and regulations, but he doesn't abolish all of them. So that's the proper balance in between. Now, coming back to Matthew here, so if that's the proper balance that we've just established, meaning that Jesus basically followed all of the laws and insisted upon all of the laws, except where he made some specific amendation. So if he had made an amendation to one of the laws, then the rest still remains valid. But Matthew has it that every last jot and tittle must be fulfilled. So many biblical commentators feel that this is an exaggeration on Matthew's part. And it may be like a kind of a response to the people who have gone to the other extreme. So leaving aside that overemphasis in Matthew's gospel, what about the basic emphasis on following the law itself? So if we think about the two extremes, which of the two extremes is actually closer to the actual life situation of Jesus? Is it the one that says that Jesus abolished the law with all of its commandments and regulations? Or is it the one that says that Jesus insisted on the law? So many now would find that it is Matthew's gospel with its emphasis on the law that is closer to the emphasis of Jesus. Of course, I would say that the Quran is even closest because the Quran is fair in showing that Jesus did abolish some, but not all of the law. But nonetheless, now thinking about the law, our Christian friends have basically started with the position that Jesus did abolish all of the laws with all of his commandments and regulations. So when they come to Matthew's gospel here in chapter 5, verse number 17, they're thinking, well, Jesus fulfilled the law in the sense that he fulfilled whatever the law prophesied about him. But of course, we can see that this is not what is being spoken about here. What is being spoken about here is carrying out the law. And the New Jerome Biblical Commentary on the Bible, interestingly, has a note to this passage saying that this emphasis on the law was continued among the Ebionites and Jewish Christians more generally, who lasted for a few centuries, but then they died out. And then that emphasis on the law actually was, forgotten until it came to be rejuvenated in the religion of Islam. So that's an interesting comment that they have made there in the New Jerome Biblical Commentary. They have actually acknowledged that Islam brought back into focus that emphasis on the law, which was there in Matthew's Gospel and which was there in Jewish Christianity, and had been forgotten and now revived in the religion of Islam. Interesting comment. Get it, the New Jerome Biblical Commentary, and show it to your Christian friends. Okay, so now we come to verse number 21 under the heading Anger and Reconciliation. So let me see how much. Okay, so not much remaining in this chapter, and then I'll look at your questions and comments. And then I'll tell you more about the debate coming up tomorrow, inshallah, which I would like you to tune into. Okay, so verse number 21, under anger and reconciliation. You have heard that it was said to the ancients, do not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with his brother will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to his brother, Raka, will be subject to the Sanhedrin. But anyone who says, you fool, will be subject to the fire of hell. Verse number 23. So you are offering your guilt at the altar. And there, you're offering your gift at the altar. If you are offering, let me read that again, verse number 23. So if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there you remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar. First go and be reconciled to your brother, then come and offer your gift. Reconcile quickly with your adversary while you are still on the way to court. Otherwise, he may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. So here we have a teaching which is, teachings which are similar to Islamic teachings. Okay, do not murder, that's a given. But do not even, be angry with your brother. And if you say to your brother Raka, which is explained here in the footnote E, saying is the Aramaic expression of contempt. So do not even say a word of contempt to your brother. Otherwise, you will be held accountable. And if you say to somebody, you fool, watch out, you might be subject to the fire of hell. And if you're offering your gift to the altar and you realize that you have actually harmed somebody, well, then you go back and you reconcile with your brother first before presenting your gift. So these are Islamic teachings, Haqqullah and Haqqul Ibad. You have to fulfill the rights of God and also the rights of the servants of God. And if you are failing in fulfilling the rights of the servants of God, you need to remedy that before God will forgive you. So reconcile quickly with your adversary. Now, teaching on adultery, verse number 27. You have heard that it was said, do not commit adultery, but I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman to lust after her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to depart into hell. Now, some people think that Jesus, on whom be peace, gave them a lighter law, but in fact, you can see that this is more demanding. This is not only that you have to fulfill the letter of the law, but you also have to fulfill the spirit of the law. So when it says do not commit adultery, don't feel that you're safe because you didn't commit adultery. Even if you look at a woman lustfully, you've already committed adultery with her in her heart, in your heart. This is what the saying is implying here. And then what do you do as a result? If your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. Of course, these are like extreme teachings, and probably Jesus did not mean for it to be taken literally. Probably he means to say that look, if your eye causes you to sin, then it would be better you don't have these eyes than for you to show up on the day of judgment with so many sins registered as being committed by this through this particular avenue, and so on. And then we come to divorce. Verse number 31. It has also been said, whoever divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, brings adultery upon her. And he who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Now, here we have what is referred to as the Matthean exception. So in Mark's gospel, if we look at Mark's gospel by comparison, we will see, and we have a reference to Luke here. So let me go over to Luke and see what Luke says in verse number 16. So I'm going to open that in a new window. So Luke has it. Am I in the right place? Yeah. Verse number 18 of Luke chapter 16. So Luke chapter 16, verse number 18 says, anyone who divorces his wife and marries another woman commits adultery, and he who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. So you see, in Luke's version here, there is no exception. Anyone who divorces his wife and marries another woman commits adultery, and he who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. So if you divorce your wife and you marry another woman, you commit adultery. If you marry a woman who has been divorced by her husband, you commit adultery. That means that the marriage, is once and for all. So the divorced woman cannot remarry. That the man who marries her will be committing adultery. And if you divorce your wife and you go marry another one, you're committing adultery. So this here is given in Luke like this without any exception. That's Luke chapter 16, verse number 18. And then in Matthew, we have it that there is an exception, except for sexual immorality. So Matthew again, chapter 5, verse 31, it has also been said, whoever divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, brings adultery upon her. And he who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. So Matthew's wording is slightly different, but the important thing is this exception about sexual immorality. Now, in general, this idea that this law about divorce has placed a lot of Christians in difficulty because they may be locked into a marriage that is not satisfying, but they have to prod their way through life with this, because to do otherwise would be to commit adultery, according to the literal wording. Now, Matthew gives a way out by saying, okay, if there is a proof of sexual immorality, then you can divorce on that basis. But other than that, no. Oaths and vows. We come now to verse number 33. Again, you have heard that it was said to the ancients, do not break your oath, but fulfill your vows to the Lord. But I tell you not to swear at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Nor should you swear by your head, for you cannot make a single hair white or black. Simply let your yes be yes, and your no, no. Anything more comes from the evil one. So Jesus is giving them simple formula here. Just say yes and mean it. Just say no and mean it. Don't swear by this or that. Otherwise, this is like a prompting from the evil one. I think this is a lesson that Muslims can remember as well, because some Muslims have the habit of saying Wallahi. They're swearing all of the time. They're saying by Allah. Now, when you take the name of Allah like that, you better be serious and be sure that what you're saying is true, because otherwise you'll be held accountable. So that, we would say, is the prompting from the devil, getting us to make all of these oaths and make even false ones. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from that. So that's a good piece of advice. Don't make oaths. Just say yes and mean it. Just say no and mean it, and so on. Okay, love your enemies. Verse number 38. You have heard that it was said, an eye for eye and tooth for tooth. But I tell you not to resist an evil person. If someone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. If someone wants to sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. And if someone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. Now, verse number 42, give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. This is an Islamic principle as well, and the Quran says, وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ, so do not repulse the one who is begging, and so on. So you give to the people who are asking from you. Now, what about this about an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth? So that's the Old Testament law. So you can retaliate up to that extent, and the Quran says you can actually retaliate to the extent of the harm that is done to you, of course, by pursuit of proper legal procedures. But at the same time, if you forgive, this is better. So the Quran strikes a balance between, on the one hand, going eye for eye, and on the other hand, forgiving totally. But notice that in this passage, Jesus is recommending that you don't resist the evil at all, and you give in entirely. So what about verse number 39? But I tell you not to resist an evil person. So many will find this to be an extreme. If you do not resist the evil persons, then you're letting evil spread in the land. But Jesus must have had some wisdom behind putting it in this way. Maybe he's trying to correct an imbalance where people are just going gung-ho with this eye for eye thing, and he wants to swing the pendulum back in the other way and saying, okay, if somebody slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. So maybe the hope is that if you turn the other cheek, you might move them to sympathy, and they will realize they're wrong. Otherwise, if you keep doing that, they'll slap you both ways. And so too, like if they sue you for your tunic, you give them your cloak as well. Well, then they keep suing you, because it's always profitable if you do not resist. Somebody forces you to go 1 mile, you go with him 2 miles. You could imagine a kidnap situation and so on. So, and naturally, you have to resist evil. But Jesus, on whom be peace, if he said these words in this way, must have had some wisdom behind it, and he must have been trying to correct an imbalance. But then we can see that, if the pendulum swung one way to one extreme and Jesus pulled it back the other way, we can see that it has come balanced in the religion of Islam, where, yes, you can resist evil, but sometimes you realize it's better to give in and not to resist, so as not to make things worse, and so on. And sometimes by giving in, you might actually move the enemy to pity, so that they can realize what they're doing wrong, and they can see the error of their ways. Now we come to verse number 43, and we're almost at the end. Then I come to your questions and comments. You've heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet only your brothers, what are you doing more than others? Do not even the Gentiles do the same? Do not even Gentiles do the same? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. So This, of course, is not an easy commandment to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. But Muslims can do that too. I mean, there's no reason why we have to hate people. You know, I have to say that in Muslim societies, I find that there is a lot of hate, and it's unnecessary. Like, why that? That's not the teachings of the great prophets. It's not for us to hate people. It's we hate the errors, we hate the wrong, we hate the injustice, and so on. But pray for the people. I mean, even if somebody is persecuting you, don't pray for his destruction. Pray for his guidance. Let him be guided and become one of us. And when he or she is guided, they will do what is right. They will do what is right and just and fair to us and to everyone else. And that will be, much better world in the end than to pray for the destruction of the enemy. So there is something here that we Muslims can learn from this set of sayings here about loving your enemy and praying for those who persecute you. And bear in mind that God is in control of all affairs. He allows the devil to exist, and he sustains all of the people who are against us. So he causes the sun to rise on the evil and the good people. He sends rain on both the righteous and the unrighteous. And if we think about our present situation, the coronavirus is, afflicting all and sundry, whether, we are righteous or not. And we pray to God for his protection. So you can see that there's a lot of good teachings here, and you can understand why Muslim scholars often quote passages from the Sermon on the Mount, but it's not done yet. In chapter 6 and 7, we will continue with such excellent teachings from our prophet Jesus. So, assuming that these are his words, or these are closely representative of what he taught, and we will continue to study those in future meetings, inshallah. I want to bring it to a close here for today, and I'll take your questions and comments. And before I turn to your questions and comments, I want to let you know about tomorrow's debate. So tomorrow, I'll be in a debate. There is a 4-way debate, 2 Christians, 2 Muslims, and a moderator. So the 2 Muslims will be myself and Brother Yusuf Ismail from South Africa. The 2 Christians will be Reverend Samuel Green from Australia and Rudolf Boshoff, and I believe he's from South Africa. So they'll be representing the Christian side. The topic of tomorrow's discussion is what the Quran says about the crucifixion. And the timing is 7 a.m. Toronto time. So if you extrapolate from that, you'll find your local time. So 7 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow, Sunday. And the moderator will be David Gilchrist, son of the more well-known John Gilchrist from South Africa. So that will be, inshallah, an exciting event. Do tune in. You will find the link in my Facebook page. I posted it there. So have a look for that, and join us tomorrow, inshallah. And pray that everything goes well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use that event to help people understand his words in the Quran, and to be guided to that truth that he wants us to accept for our salvation. Okay, so I'll turn now to your questions and comments. I'll just rearrange my desktop here a little bit so that I can see your comments closer to the camera, rather than always be looking away. Okay. So, your comments. So I see, okay, apart from the comments I already acknowledged, I come now to Brother Reza Rahman, my fellow Guyanese, saying salam and Happy New Year. Thank you, my brother. Wa alaikum salam, and Happy New Year to you as well. And Ahmed Abbas saying, Salam alaikum, Dr. Shabir. How do Christians reconcile between Jesus being God and Jesus being tempted by Satan? Some lay Christians say this is because Jesus had a human nature and he was giving an example for humans to follow him. Is this correct from an educated Christian point of view? I believe this doesn't make sense, even from the Trinity perspective. Could Jesus have been tempted? If no, then what was the point of the temptation? And if yes, how could God be tempted in total contradiction to the nature of God in all religions? So I think you've hit upon a very important point here. And Brother Ahmed, if you go back to last week's video, you will find that actually we were dealing with this, because that's in that chapter that it was mentioned that Jesus was tempted. So how do we reconcile this? There's no easy reconciliation, because as you've already found out, you will hear different things from different people, and sometimes something different from the lay person and the Christian authorities. But I think on this point, neither has the answer. Like, how can you say that he was tempted? If he was God, then God cannot be tempted. I think everybody agrees with that. So what they want to say is that by becoming a human, he had to show the example of how to live as a human. And, he himself had to be submissive, like his human nature had to be submissive to God and to bear all of the kinds of temptations and so on that a normal human being goes through. But then that, draws to our attention the question of what is the relationship between the two minds? Like, is there a human mind and a divine mind in the one human being that is walking on the earth? So these are very difficult problems, and why do not the two minds communicate with each other to know? Like, if Jesus is walking on the earth, like and everyone can say this is a Palestinian Jew, a human being at that time, does he know that he has a divine mind in him? So if he knows that he has a divine mind in him, then he's not an ordinary human being. If he has that divine mind, who is not doing anything and just letting this body go along like this, these are all complications. There's no easy solution to that. So the best thing is for us to help our Christian friends understand that Jesus was a human being, and at some point people try to imagine that he is God, and then they know that he's a human being. This is undeniable, and now they because especially they have stories like the temptation story, which really shows that he's a human being, and now they're still trying to say that he is God, and the difficulties in trying to reconcile these two, and it's not reconcilable, unfortunately. Okay, we come to Nailun bin Hajj Saleh, and I hope I am pronouncing your name correctly, my brother. And so you're asking about Quran, Surah 6, verse 108. Lat tasubbu ladina. Yeah, some concordance, it is a bedtime sermon. So I'm not sure what point you're trying to make, my brother Nailun. On the one hand, yes, we should not, we should not, insult, what other people worship. So I agree with you on that. But I'm not sure whatever else you're saying. Okay, Dennis, referring to verses 39 to 42, there is a verse in Romans 12:19, which says, "Do not avenge yourselves, beloved, but yield place to the wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says Jehovah." The eye for eye and tooth for tooth could also be executed after a verdict was spoken, for example, by judges. In times of Jesus, there was no such judge who was approved by God. Okay, so I think what you're saying, Dennis, is that when the judge is there, the judge will render the judgment. If the judge is not there, well, then you can't just take matters into your own hands and go gouge out the eye of the other person or break the other person's tooth. But you must, in such a situation, be patient, knowing that God, Jehovah, eventually will, make everything right. Okay, that's an interesting response to that. So those are all of the comments that I see today. And I thank you all for joining. And I see, there are some others here which I may have missed. Okay, so I see Brother Samuddin Saeed Abdullah saying, "May Allah bless you." Thank you, my brother Samuddin. And Sister Joyce Taylor saying, "Salam, wa alaikum assalam." And so those are all that I've seen today. And I want to thank you all for joining. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you all. Keep praying for me, especially for tomorrow's dialogue, that everything goes well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all and all of your loved ones, protect you all from COVID-19, from monkeypox, from every other sickness, disease, stress, and distress. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the entire world, keep this world safe, protect the environment, the plants, the animals, the people. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this new year one of prosperity for Muslims and one in which literacy is developed in Muslim societies, in which Muslim societies progress towards the future, in which there is more guidance being offered from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and more people are being guided towards the right path. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use us as instruments in this new year for conveying his message to the wider world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and everyone else to that truth that he wants us to accept for our eternal salvation. Brothers and sisters, if you'd like to help the work which I'm doing, please go to our website, islaminfo.com, and that is where you can send us a donation to help our mission. Thank you, my brothers and sisters, and all of our friends out there. Thank you all for joining. Peace and the mercy and blessings of Allah be with you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.